Hello everybody, and welcome back to another monthly reading vlog. Happy June, happy Pride. It's currently thunderstorming outside again. If the power goes out again, I'm literally going to scream. So first things first, I just want to thank everybody for subscribing and watching my videos. My viewership has gone into the double digits, which is very surprising to me, and I believe I have 40 subscribers. I think half of those are probably dead accounts, but still, I am very, very grateful for the amount of people who have decided to watch this stupid collection of my thoughts. So I am very, very, very grateful. I didn't think I'd get this many viewers. Thank you so, so much. It is the first of the month, and I've already finished one book, and I have started my other book. So the first book I read was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. It is a debut novel. It has been waitlisted on my library account for months and months and months. It's a big deal. It was a short enough book, so I decided to read it while working my shifts, and I ended up giving the book 3 stars. It is a very popular idea in the world of historical fiction. It is 2 perspectives, so there's one of a woman set in the modern day as she is researching another point of view character from the past. She's from the 1790s, and she runs an apothecary that helps customers kill people with her, remedies. I just didn't like the amount of women's suffering thrown into it, specifically with baby making and stuff. That can happen in a book, obviously, but I hate when the entire thing is just based around it. It's just not to my tastes. So it was fine enough, a good general short historical fiction book. I would recommend it to people, but it's just not really my tastes exactly. And the book I'm currently reading is for my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster. I am reading The Shadow of the Wind. Can't remember the author at the moment. I left the book downstairs, but I will obviously talk about that in that vlog. But it is book number 50 on my poster. I will be halfway done the poster this month. That's very, very exciting. So that's my updates for now. I will let you know what I read next. Hello. Just a quick update to say that I am currently listening to the audiobook of Bloodsucking Fiends by Christopher Moore. It is a notorious, humorous, supernatural series, and he has, I believe, 3 books about the vampires that are currently in this first book. The first book was published in 1995, and so far it's very light. I don't think anything's particularly that funny, but it's a very nice and light book so far. It's a woman who was just turned into a vampire, and she's meeting this guy, and they're struggling to live together given this new circumstance. I am 37% of the way through that, so I will finish that very soon. It's a very short book. But I wanted to update by saying I got a new jewelry box. $3.50 at the thrift store. Ain't she purty? Very, very purty. But that's not really why I wanted to show you the jewelry box. While I was deep cleaning it, I found this. This is a Playboy decal. Last year and this year, I've been obsessively reading everything about Playboy, watching The Girls Next Door, reading everybody's memoirs. So I've been in the Playboy hole because I just think that it's fascinating. Look! I'm being haunted by Hef! Okay, it's been quite a bit. I've been working, but I've also been reading, so let me update you now. I finished Bloodsucking Fiends by Christopher Moore, and I'm giving that 3 stars. It was supposed to be funny, and it wasn't very funny. It was sort of just a light romance with some humorous aspects. A lot of the humor was racial and sexuality-based and sort of gender-based. This book was written in the 90s. I don't blame it for being that. I just didn't find it funny, and I think that was the point of the book. I didn't really laugh at all. And the narrator doing a few accents was not good. But the story in itself was fine enough. It was harmless. I listened to it while doing a lot of my errands for the month. It was a very, very short audiobook. It was harmless. I have the second and third book saved on my account, but I don't know when I'll get to them. They're not a priority. And today I finished The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafon, and I'm giving it 4.5 stars. I will talk about it more in that specific vlog coming at the end of summer, but I really, really enjoyed this book. It is beautifully written, the story's fantastic, very, very perfect example of just a beautiful historical literary fiction following a character as he struggles to find out the life of an author where the books are almost completely eradicated from the world. Very, very exciting stuff, but it's only getting 4.5 stars because while I think it is a perfectly written book, it's an excellent book, it's not one of my favorites of all time. I give 5 stars to books that I would consider a favorite of all time, a reread, stuff like that. It's just my own personal bias and how I rate things, but I would consider this a very, very excellent book and I would recommend it to others. So that's my update for now. I need to figure out what I'm going to read next. I have quite the pile building up, so let's figure out what I read next.
Was that to change and challenge the world requires education, but not just any education. Rather, an education which trains us to think in new and innovative ways. And the foundation of that unique education is a multidisciplinary approach to formal classes combined with a college system of interaction and social learning. Tales to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
Hello, you're finally getting a reading update from me. My month has been so busy that I haven't been doing very much reading, but I still have been doing some reading. So in the days since I updated, I have started and finished Broken by Kelley Armstrong. It is a book in her Women of the Otherworld series, which is an urban fantasy series. I think it's book 6. And I'm only giving it 2 stars just because it contained content, just heavy discussion of pregnancy and her entire pregnancy process, the main character, as well as zombies. And those are 2 things that I really, really don't like reading about, and that was the entirety of the book. And the book was just, I did not like the premise of it. It was just very meh for me. So it was my least favorite book in the series so far. I'm not going to buy a copy of it. I read it on the library app. Luckily, I have the next book as a hard copy, so I can just get right back into the series. I am also currently reading Ordeal by Linda Lovelace. If you don't know her story, be careful looking it up. It's very graphic. She is best known for being in the film Deep Throat, and this is a memoir about her life under the hands of a very, very abusive man and how she got into that industry in the first place. It is an incredible memoir, but it is extremely graphic. Look up everything yourself. Don't go into it thinking it's going to be light. It's dark. I've been pretty upset by a few things, but I knew what I was getting into. So far I'm halfway done it, and it is an incredible memoir. I plan to read her other one as well after this. And yep, that's my reading.
Oh yeah. How about this man who looks very... This is our group. Can I have security, please? Sir, I'm going to toss...
Hi there. Do I have reading updates? Not really. I do, but I don't. First thing I'm going to do, though, is show you a bunch of stuff I bought, because now that I have disposable income, I can't stop. So the first thing I will show you is book-related. So in Toronto, from a used bookstore, I got this adorable graphic novel, children's graphic novel of Dracula by Bram Stoker, and I thought, oh, that's cute. That's just a fun little loan book that I can have and add to my collection, because I already have a Dracula graphic novel. I thought, why not build a collection? I went to the dollar store this week, and I found Frankenstein and Jane Eyre from the same series. They have a ton of gothic children's graphic novels at Dollarama for $3. So I might even pick up more copies of these, because they had Hunchback, they had Oliver Twist, Treasure Island, stuff like that. Very exciting stuff. Next, I went to Michael's, you know, sticker stuff, you know me, and I found this guy for 40% off, because they're getting rid of all their summer stuff. Isn't it the most precious ceramic holder in the world? It's just a precious strawberry, and I love it. I think I'm going to put my candy in here. And then the final thing I want to show you is my new Pride and Joy. I found it at the thrift store for $8.50. You're going to die when you see this. In box, Edward Cullen collectible Barbie doll with glitter skin. This is the skin of a killer, Bella. This is my son. I'm going to take him everywhere with me. He's my favorite purchase in the friggin' world now. The box was opened, so it has lost value, but in box, Edward Cullen collectible doll, I died. I'm so happy, and it is joining my other Vampire Boy collection. Okay, now for my book updates. I finished Ordeal by Linda Lovelace, and I'm giving that one, I believe, 4 stars. It is a very solid memoir, a very dark, tragic life, and dark, tragic ending. I read about how she ended up passing away in the early 2000s, and it's just very sad stuff. She has another memoir as well, talking about the aftermath of her ordeal, and I think I might also read that. And I forgot to update this days earlier. I started and have now finished In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. Now, this book was a recent release, I believe. I listened to it on audiobook. It is the story of 7 people who went to college together, but during their senior year, one of their best friends, Heather, was murdered. And now they're coming back for their college reunion 10 years later, and her brother is trying to figure out who killed his sister. The 7 characters, it's 3 girls, technically 4 girls, but one of the girls is not part of the 7 core group, and then 4 guys, and they all have interesting motivations and reasons that they could possibly be the killer. There's a lot of secrets that are unveiled, a lot of horrible things that happens, and it ends up in great twists and turns. I thought it was a very solid thriller. I was kept mostly on my toes, but once they foreshadowed something, I would, guess, and then they would add more, and then I'd figure out the route. So it was a very, very good thriller in that I wasn't disappointed by any of the results. I would put it in the dark academia genre, more of an academic thriller, obviously. I just use the term because it is an aesthetic term that people will seek out books in. It's not going to follow all those typical conventions of that weird subgenre, but I will just add it in there as it is a good book that people would enjoy if they enjoyed If We Were Villains, especially. And I am giving that book 4 stars. It was very, very good. I really, really liked it. Now, there is not a lot of this month left, so you might just be seeing my wrap-up after this clip, but who knows what'll happen in the next 4 days. See you then. Alrighty, it's wrap-up time. So this month I was pretty busy. I graduated, I went on a day trip to Toronto, I went shopping a lot, I worked, but I still managed to read technically 7 books. So the first book I technically read from the end of May to the beginning of June was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I only ended up giving that book 3 stars because it was a pretty standard historical fiction, didn't really add a lot of nuance or new ideas. It was an interesting premise, and it is a short enough book that I would recommend it to those who are curious about it, but it just didn't do a lot for me. I thought it was way too heavily based in women's suffering, which can be an interesting aspect of a novel, but it was just too bombarded by it, and I don't want my entire book to be based around that. The second book that I read was The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafon for my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster. I ended up giving this book 4 stars, 4.5 really, because it is an excellent novel. It is a wonderful, wonderful literary historical fiction. I really enjoyed it. I was compelled by it the entire time, but I still just don't consider it a favorite of all time. Like, I don't know if I'll ever reread it, stuff like that, and I just can't find myself giving it a 5-star for that, but it is still an excellent book, and I do highly, highly recommend it. I then listened to the audiobook of Blood-Sucking Fiends by Christopher Moore, which is the first in a sort of humorous vampire trilogy, I believe it is now. I only ended up giving that one 3 stars. It was written in the late 90s, so the humor was very much gross, not really comfortable in today's humor. A lot of it was focused on race and weird gender dynamics, which I just didn't find funny. And the whole point of the book was to be a sort of humorous and light romantic vampire book, and I just thought that it failed in that aspect because it wasn't funny to me. I have the sequels prepared in my library account, but I don't know when I'll get to them. But I thought I would try them out because I saw them all the time in bookstores, and I thought, oh, what are these books about? So I then read Broken by Kelley Armstrong, which is, I believe, book 6 in the Women of the Otherworld series. I hated this one. This was my least favorite of the series so far. I only gave it 2 stars. I just hate zombies, and I also just hate a duration of a pregnancy throughout a novel. And the main character literally only talked about her pregnancy. They literally only talked about her being pregnant. Plus making Jack the Ripper and zombies and vampires and warlocks all together. Very convoluted, very confusing. I don't understand the obsession with Jack the Ripper. Like, to an extent I do, about the historical aspects and the sort of crime scene investigation of back then, but it's just a man who killed prostitutes, and I just think that it's really icky to fixate so heavily on that. So yeah, putting Jack the Ripper into this werewolf series where her main deal is trying to deal with the fact that she's pregnant, and she didn't even know she was pregnant with twins. I think you know when you're pregnant with twins, you know? I think you can feel it, like... Anyway, 2 stars. I hated it. I'm looking forward to the next book, though. I then read Ordeal by Linda Lovelace, which I am giving 4 stars because it is an excellent memoir about a horrible, horrible aspect of her life, a horrible ordeal she went through. I don't recommend it to everyone due to the extreme themes. I would tread lightly if you are curious, but it is excellent. So I'm going to also be reading her other memoir as well. I also technically read a book called Hefnerland by Jill Ann Spaulding. She is a woman who sort of was in the Playboy circle around the same time of Holly Madison and Bridget Marquardt. She was only there for like a month or so. I read it mostly for the scandalous details because it's not really a book. It's more just like a long description of her time at the mansion. And she talks a lot about the parties and the celebrities who were there and sort of gives a real look at how Hugh Hefner is like. She also describes the weekly nights they had, so that's mostly what I read that for. I don't really want to rate it because it's not really a book. And then finally, I listened to the audiobook for In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead, and I'm giving that book 4 stars. It was just a very, very excellent academic thriller. I would highly recommend it for those who were a fan of If We Were Villains by ML Rio. I just really like the aspect of a group of friends in a post-secondary setting and murder and all of the intrigue of that and trying to figure out who the murderer was, trying to figure out what happened that night, stuff like that. I do wish there was more in-depth motivations, descriptors on the characters, specifically Jack, because aside from his reveal, there's not that much about him, and I would like to have known him better as a person, what he was like in the past and the present. Everybody else in the core friend group did get their dues, but I feel like he didn't. And there is a point to that, but I just wish he was more than his reveal. So that was my reading month. Things are a bit more chaotic with my reading schedule because I actually have some opportunities to read at work sometimes. So I might get through books in a different way. I might start books at the end of the month and finish them at the start of the month, so it's going to get a little bit confusing, but I will be sure to relay every single book that I read here in some capacity. Well, that's it for this month. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye!